We've just started the recording, and if anyone does not want to be recorded, unfortunately, you have to leave. With that said, welcome back from summer. We're ready to start having the bi-weekly demos again. This time, we're going to show you some improved search functionality in the front end and also some new pages for ontologies, all classes, and RDL terms. And today, Alna is the one that will be giving the demo. So over to you, Alna.
Yes, hello, good Friday, everybody. Now I'm going to start out with attempting to have Teams accept some screen sharing, which is always interesting. So if somebody could confirm that they're now currently looking at the mostly white and blue webpage. We are.
I am.
Okay, super. Then the screen sharing is working. So this is the front end for the new PCA Library Services beta. In this search, there's a free text search, and you can also limit your searches to the various kinds of things that are in our stores. Today, we're going to start out by searching for the ontologies that we have. Some of you might recognize this one on top. I'm not going to click it directly. I'm going to open up a view of how this data looks in its raw form. And that's this view. Some of you might be familiar with it. Some of you might even have fond memories of it and like it, like me. But turns out most people want some other view of presentation of it, because let's face it, not all of us are very fond of miles and miles of text. So then we've made this initial draft for presentation of how an OWL ontology can be presented. An important point to make on this web page is that this is not statically generated content. This is pulled directly from a triple store, and it is generated on the fly. So if somebody were to do a change in the data that makes up the definition of the core ontology, wouldn't recommend it. It has some repercussions. The web page will immediately reflect the changes, but we still keep all of the nice features that we have, so that all of these boxes that are in blue, they're links that you can follow. So we could go to this, and we could find the RDFS definition of as comment. We can follow this, and we get to the ORCID identity page of one of the main author for the ontology. And this has, we've got some more tabs here. We'll get back to this members tab in a bit. And ontologies, we show that the PLM core ontology is dependent on and imports the industrial data ontology, or IDO. In the current database, we also have the PLM unit of measure ontology, which again depends on and imports the PLM core ontologies. That is also listed here on that lower ontologies. So you know what dependence does the thing that I'm currently looking on have, and which things are dependent on the thing that I'm looking on. And then I promised you I would get back to this members content. This is a feature that we're working on adding, but it's a bit of work, and we have to be careful when we are doing changes to these ontologies, because they're in use. So then we're going to skip to an ontology that we've made in-house. This is made by our colleague of mine, Martin, and we just jumped to our QA environment. So this is a representative example, not intended for any production or business decisions. We still keep the same information in the ontologies that this is dependent on and extend. But in our members list, we have right now, like I said, this is an early draft. We have the complete listing of all of the IMF content that is declared in the QA environment right now, because the IMF content ontology is explicitly stated as the thing that acts as the owner of the definition for these terms. So here we have an IMF attribute for long-term drift, and it is explicitly defined by the IMF content ontology. This enables us to figure out where did a definition come from, which definitions do we need to version when we're publishing a new published version of an ontology, and so on. There's a bit more work, but it gives us a lot more working freedom and a lot of more provenance information for how was a decision supported by the information that was available at a given time. So that's it for our ontologies. Now we're going to have a look at the current draft of a presentation for our class. This is just an example that's pulled from the existing PLM core ontology for the concept of capacitance. In most OWL classes, the interesting information is stored in something that's called OWL restrictions, which aren't directly a feature of the thing that we're looking on, but it's a whole complex piece of information in and of itself. The current presentation that we have right now allows us to navigate to, I think the demo ghost is coming up, navigate to the defining the things that define the OWL class that we're looking at. And it's all available in the same web page. And again, like we looked at with the ontologies, it's based directly on the data that is currently in the database. There's no need to do any reissuing of the documentation of web pages once a change has been made to the data or the ontologies. And yeah, that's it for today. Any questions?
Is this available for us at the QA, or is it still just staged, so you need to deploy it?
No, everything that is in the QA and all of the data that is in the QA environment is publicly available via the API or the front end. There's access control on who can contribute or create new data points.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
I'm going to share the link in the chat, and feel free to click around, have a look. We would really appreciate any and all feedback on how does the search, what is your experience of using the search functionality? What is your experience of looking at the various pages for the different kinds of things that is in the database? Are there things that you would expect to see when you're looking at a presentation of an ontology that you feel is missing? Same preferably with an IMF block terminal type or with one of the OWL classes that we have in the reference data libraries.
So if I want to see the OWL for just one IMF type, is there a link for that?
We can see if we can find a capacitance IMF attribute if we're lucky. Nope. If we check IMF attribute, this might be linked to either RDS definitions or and this is linked to staging 3. So this link is what you would follow if it was linked to an OWL class. Finding one right now in what has been sent in that isn't GFOS or one of the old existing libraries like staging 3 without having planned for it is a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because right now the prioritized list is first and foremost GFOS, and GFOS isn't expressed as OWL.
But if we take the temperature transmitter and the API now has element types where you get everything of IMF types, but is it now, can you use the identifier of the temperature transmitter IMF type to retrieve just that one?
You can take this one. That's the plant aspect. As you can see here, we would like some feedback on finding the correct IMF block in the correct aspect.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So in your presentation of the finds, where you had the list of 3 temperature transmitters, if that list could pick up the aspect and use that would be really helpful.
I'll make a note of it. I think we've already made a note of it, but
at least it was discussed earlier this week.
Yeah.
So because when you're in, so here so can you paste well, it's just Swagger. Okay.
Yeah. And then you can fetch the specific ontology IMF type here.
Right.
I haven't prepared this, so this might not go completely according to plan. I asked for the HTML, but we usually want the data when they're asking for. Yeah. And all of these endpoints are publicly open, and we would like as many of you to try them out, figure out what annoys you, what are the pain points, because we can polish it forever and not get anywhere. And the minute it hits somebody else, they will find something and point it out that we have missed.
I have a question. I have 2 questions, I think.
Yeah.
The first one is about the identifiers that you use. We can see that you have this GUID, some variant of GUID apparently for everything here.
Yes.
I've been trying to say earlier that this is not exactly according to what you will find recommended in most discussions about identifiers for things that are supposed to be part of reference libraries. There's a couple of things like they're not very friendly if you need to do manual work, and they don't index very well when you have them in a relational database, which is, I think, a relevant consideration.
Yeah, they should not start with a number, for instance.
Yeah, all of these kinds of things.
Yes.
What do you intend to do? Do you intend to continue doing this, or do you intend to quote unquote improve?
This has been an ongoing discussion. I'm not going to claim that the current solution is perfect. It has a lot of drawbacks, like you say. They are more difficult to index than a serial number. But the requirements that were put forth to us when we started this work have some implications on the amount of work if we want to use serial numbers. If we want to use serial numbers, that has a cost in administration and infrastructure that has to be maintained and coordinated between authors of the data over time. And we are quite certain that the UID approach is needed for the IMF content, because it is very much intended to be a multiple author ecosystem. I am not so certain that it is a good approach for reference data terms that are intended to be a lot more static and durable than an IMF block.
I think that's a good answer. But then the challenge is to determine which parts of the IMF...
the line.
Well, yes, exactly, because an IMF types library is, I mean, it's pretty easy to argue that it does have the character of a reference library and something that is intended to be used by several different entities, and not just created, but used by several different entities.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But the thing that sets how an IMF library is intended to be used apart from the more classic RDL libraries is that there is intended to be more business-specific applications used in authoring and consumption for IMF than there has typically been for most ontology work. Most ontology work, one would use ecosystems like TopRaid or Protégé, which are multifunction applications that don't have a lot of specific functionality for my use case. Most of the software that is in the works in and around the IMF ecosystem are specifically tailored to solve the cases that come from IMF. So that's my answer to that one. I'm not sure how well it's going to age.
Well, at least it has been noted. I think this is an issue that deserves all the attention that you can muster.
Yeah, for us specifically, all the identifiers that starts with a number, we actually need to alter when we represent it in CDF. So that's. But if there is any instruction to the generator that it should not start with a number, that would be something that would be a major help for us then.
Yeah, but then you're already introducing a rule that would need to be distributed to anyone who wants to create anything, right? So you have the administration, it just comes and bites you after all.
But doing serial numbers doesn't help us with that either. That means I also have to prefix my serial numbers by something that we agree on ahead of time.
That's what we have the P numbers for, right?
Which
I'm known in our solution as the P number man.
The P man.
Yeah. So we are aware that there's going to be friction with this proposal. But we don't think that we're going to figure out what is the actual best solution by not trying. So we're trying, but willing to change.
A different question is, if you could please go back a couple of screens to show the exploration function. So just search for any term capacitance you had.
Yep.
Yeah. When you select one of these, say that you pick the first, yes, the first match.
Oh, let's hope the demo ghost leaves us alone.
Should work. I just tried it myself.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm curious as to what we're looking at, because the when I just tried out your example. I clicked on the identifier, which is right there, and that identifier happens to be a carefully worked out structured identifier intended to be pointing into a particular resource, you know, in the RDL, which is under the POSC-CSAR ontology PLM path. But when you look down at the very bottom left of your browser window, we can see that this does not point to the actual linked data resource, but it points into something at an Azure Web application server or something.
Yes.
And that's like, that seems like a duplication of functionality, and even, I mean, the standing ideology is that linked data should actually work like linked data. So if you have a link like this that does resolve, then, I mean, clicking on this address, I would be expecting to be taken to that particular address. And if you open that link in a browser window without being inside this web application, of course, you will get to that page, which happens to have more information than we can see here. So it would be interesting to compare.
So if I do this, I get that.
So exactly. So here you have obviously more information about the particular resource, because you have the constraints on the right, you have metadata, you know which, it doesn't say which ontology it belongs to, but I mean, this gives you more, and there are other systems that serve uplinked data that will do this, I think, better. And in these cases, it's like more than you get out of the web application that you're demonstrating. So
yes, you are completely correct. Right now, we are doing at best hit with this link. We're doing a live omission, and we are showing you the visual representation of this link, and in the hyperlink behind this text, we're linking to a different page. The reason for this is that, and yes, this is duplicating the information. The reason for this is that in order for us to not duplicate this information and actually present the information at one URL, we have to do a coordinated switch of 4 DNS lookup mappings. And it has been decided that that change is not something we want to do ahead of the DISC show and tell. So that has been postponed at least until October, I think. So we are aware that this is an issue. But this data is also hosted at several other different places in different web servers, and the only reason we are seeing this URL here is because of 4 layers of indirection and redirect in the current DNS mapping. And like I started the presentation by pointing out, is that this information right here is based on what is stated about this term capacitance in the ontology that it's a part of, and nothing else. In this is a statically generated HTML resource, which is based on, among other things, what is stated about capacitance in the unit of measure ontology. If we look up capacitance in the unit of measure ontology text, there is no mapping between this term and the ontology itself. It is based on it being in the same text file.
Oh, being part of the ontology, actually, being part of the ontology graph in this case.
Yeah, there's right now there's some missing information in the serializations.
I think what you mean is that you'd like an explicit link from the capacitance resource to the ontology to which it belongs, or the ontology that owns it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That is definitely something that it makes sense to include in various cases. But in your service, do you have the content negotiation feature included so that you can ask for the server to provide you with RDF instead of
Yes.
instead of the visual display? So that would be interesting to see. So if you go
if we look at the start of the URL here, so QA-hi-Azure websites, and we mouse over here, we can see that that is the same server. So we are doing content negotiation, and if you query this URL and you accept HTML, you will get what we're looking at right now. And if you query via the Swagger endpoint, the same URL, and as for text turtle, you're going to get RDF. But we can't provide information that isn't in the ontology. If information has been added in the generation of the static HTML web pages that are being presented here, it doesn't exist in the data. But we can get better.
I mean, just consider the pieces that are shown on the right on this page. They're under constraints. They are in the unit of measure ontology. I'm pretty confident.
Yes.
But they're not shown here.
Yes, that is correct. And that's not because it's not in the data. That's because we haven't gotten around to to actually make a readable and good presentation of the information.
So the time is up now. Is there any more questions before we close off? If not, I would like to say thank you to Arne, and thank you to everyone that participated and the good discussions.
Very good discussion, folks.
Yeah.
I hope everyone has a great weekend when
Thank you.
that time comes.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.